meeting of the Affordable Housing Committee. I'll begin by taking roll. Chair Parker is present. Councilmember Allen is present. Councilmember Hauser is here. Councilmember Mendez is here. Councilmember Sepulveda is here. Councilmember Sledge is here. Councilmember Suara is here. Councilmember Taylor is here. Councilmember Toombs is here, and we nearly have perfect attendance, but Councilmember Welsh is not with us today. We've got 3 items on the agenda, and then we also have an update from Metro Action Commission. So we'll jump right into it. First on our agenda is Resolution RS 2021-1260 by Sepulveda, Johnston, and others. This appropriates, I'm sorry? Oh. Resolution 2021-1260, folks, we've got business here before us. Resolution 2021-1260 appropriates $2,200,000 in American Rescue Plan Act funds from fund number 30216 to supplement the Barnes Fund, to establish a catalyst fund for affordable housing purchases, and to create a centralized database of subsidized housing. Could we have a motion on the resolution? All right, properly moved and seconded. We've got a substitute here with several members of this committee on it, led by Councilmember Sledge. Councilmember Sledge, would you like to tell us a little bit about your substitute? One second.
Yes, Chair, thank you. So my intent to the committee is actually to make a motion to defer the bill one meeting, but with the intent of discussing why I want to defer it. So I'll make the motion to defer one meeting and wait for a second on that.
Okay, we have a motion to defer one meeting before us. Can I get a second? All right, we have a motion to defer one meeting before us. What's the purpose? Can you want a discussion on the deferral?
Yes, absolutely. So the deferral ties into the topic of the substitute. So members, the substitute that's in your packet would essentially double the amounts that are allocated to the Barnes Fund and the Catalyst Fund from $10 to $20 million each. The reason I'm not presenting the substitute, but instead asking for a deferral of the bill, is that because in the intervening time between our first and second council meetings for this month, there will be a meeting of the ARP committee this week. There will be a meeting of the Housing Trust Fund Commission, which oversees the Barnes Fund. And my indication from the ARP committee in the past is that when we have discussed significant changes to a recommendation that the ARP committee has asked that it come back before the committee, that I think is entirely reasonable. And also, since there is a Housing Trust Fund Commission meeting in the time between the first and second, to be able to present this idea or substitute to the commission as well for their discussion. Having said all that, I would be interested in members' thoughts on this, on the administration's thoughts on this. And I do also there are folks in the affordable housing community as well that are available in the audience to speak to kind of how these funds operate, because one of these funds is new, and kind of how these types of funds work. So with that, I'll be quiet for a minute and see if the other members want to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll begin with committee members. I saw Councilmember Allen first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Now. Yes.
I appreciate Councilmember Sledge bringing the substitute forward. I will say, as a member of the Affordable Housing Task Fund, this was one of our specific recommendations, was to robustly fund the Barnes Fund to the tune of $20 million, and I appreciate that. And then also to create a strike fund that would have the flexibility to be there to rescue existing affordable housing properties, because that's much less expensive to hang on to than it is to build new affordable housing. So I appreciate listening to the recommendations of the task fund, and it's always exciting to make a recommendation and have somebody try to follow through on it. So I think the deferral, just to make sure the committees also have the opportunity to weigh into that, is totally appropriate, and I hope that people will use the interim period also to look at the Affordable Housing Task Fund recommendations and to see how this is consistent with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Allen. I'm going to, again, stick with committee members first. I saw Councilmember Sepulveda next.
Thank you, Chair. I am in support of the deferment. When we were in the committee, my fellow colleagues did express the desire to see legislation come back to the committee if there is significant, if the amount is raised or lowered. So I think that is appropriate. We do have a committee meeting on Wednesday. I know the agenda went out, so I don't know if Mary Jo could speak to if we could get Councilmember Sledge on the agenda for this Wednesday.
Sounds like you're on.
Thank you, Chair. We do have a full agenda. One of the items up for request is actually an MDHA request for $15 million related to affordable housing. So we will be talking about affordable housing. That would be an opportunity to continue this conversation. As you know, as a member, we have 2-hour plus agenda meetings. I can't guarantee the amount of time that we have to readdress this with such short notice, but it certainly would be a timely topic. As we discussed at the November Oversight Committee meeting, this initial resolution was not intended to be a one and done. We talked about the fact that the Catalyst Fund is new and that we don't know exactly how it will respond to the funds and exactly how it will play out. And so the request was made that we could come back to the Oversight Committee in the near future with an additional request. So I think it would be a perfect opportunity, Councilmember Sledge, if you'd like to come, listen to what MDHA is proposing. We all have the goal of increasing the number of affordable units. There are other tools to get that done. And we also want to be able to optimize the funds and pivot as necessary. So we want to be able to react to the successes and pivot where we have to. So there's also the opportunity to approve these funds and then come back with another request. We don't have to necessarily defer the first $20 million. We know that that's what we want to do. We can make those investments and come back with an additional request later. That's another option.
Thank you. Mary Jo is correct. The committee did express the desire to fund more for affordable housing, and that was the initial request that was approved. We were told at the committee meeting that Hannah Davis would come back later after she had spoke to some of the people in the Affordable Housing Committee community to see if there were more recommendations. I just want to respect the request, I guess, of our ARP committee in that there was the desire to have legislation come back to us if we wanted to increase it on the council level. But I will leave it up to the rest of my colleagues. I do know that I have 2 other colleagues on the committee here.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Sepulveda. I would like to give Councilmember Sledge just a quick moment to respond as his motion was addressed directly by the administration.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And there was a discussion about, approving now and then coming back later. My experience and I'll speak just to the Barnes Fund piece, but my experience on the Housing Trust Fund Commission has kind of shown me that the amount that will go out, if we were to approve a $10 million amount, that would be the amount for the spring funding round. And so if we were to come back later and put more in, that would go into a later round. And what we have the opportunity here is to basically not waste any time. This would still go to the spring round, but instead of having a spring round of 10 million, we'd have a spring round of 20 million. And so to be able to do that, I think I think the Housing Trust Fund Commission and Councilmember Sawara can correct me, but I think they're about to have an approval of a funding round. And in that funding round, there was a demand of somewhere around 17 million for housing. And that's, in my experience, actually a little low. We typically had 20, 22 million. So members, if we were to increase this at our second meeting in December to 20 million, we'd then have a $20 million spring round. And while the commission was doing its work on that spring round, we would be discussing what we're putting in the operating budget for the fall round and any additional ARP money that we might put in. Because remember, We're operating with a first half tranche of about 130 million. We will get a second 130 million for the next fiscal year. So that's what we're discussing here, is being able to have a spring funding round of 20 million instead of 10. So I just want to make that distinction.
Thank you, Councilmember. I have in the queue Committee Member Suara and then Councilmember Johnston. So Councilmember Suara.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to speak in support of the deferral and the 20 million addition. I think it's good to be able to have both the ARP committee and the Housing Fund Commission to be able to look at it. Housing is critical now. I think we've been talking about housing now. We all know how important it is. And I think delaying putting more money in housing is not something we should be doing. So I think the sooner we can get this approved, the sooner we can put more money in the bonds fund, the sooner we can have the money out, the sooner we can have more affordable housing in our community. And one of my colleagues was just asking me about also the 20% allotment that we have to small companies. We've been talking about this capacity building to enable more participants in bonds fund. And so part of the concern is that if we dig into the 10 million to do capacity building, then we don't have enough to produce housing. So having additional money allows us to be able to do a whole lot more in terms of putting money out, as well as capacity building and everything that we need to do to increase housing for our population. So I'm saying that let's do it now. I agree for it to go to the committee, but I think we should not delay it until later. And I hope the ARP committee will listen and allow us the additional allotment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. All right, we'll go to ARP Committee Member, Councilmember Johnston, if I can find your button, and you should be live.
Thank you. I actually asked the question when we were in the COVID-19 Financial Oversight Committee meeting with Hannah Davis when she came asking for this amount of money, if we should, because we have such an issue with affordable housing, should we increase it to 30 million or 40 million dollars? And I hate to put her on the spot, but I wanted her to repeat why she said not right now. Do you mind? Because it was a valid reason, and I just cannot remember exactly what you said, but it was, and we all laughed because you said, it's hard to say no, but right now we didn't have the capacity or something. So if you'll just repeat.
Yes, at that point, I wasn't sure what our application numbers were going to be, which we actually have now. So as Councilmember Sledge shared, we have a little bit over $17 million in fundable applications that are being reviewed right now. I think, we have some housing folks here I think I'd be interested to hear from as well, but the way the Housing Trust Fund works is a little bit of a supply and demand. So, as we signal more, we'll see more applications. So, like I said, in the committee, I'll always say we'll put that money to use and we'll put it out on the street. But I appreciate that there are multiple needs that departments have and that we're trying to balance the needs of our city.
Okay, I'm kind of confused to what to do. I mean, if we're still going to consider increasing, I don't think anybody's going to fight against increasing that allocation. I hate to defer it because I think we're all wanting to make that allocation at least now. But I'm happy to talk about it tomorrow at the meeting.
Thank you. And it was mentioned that we have some folks from the affordable housing community here. I wonder if anyone would be able to speak. The question that I really have is, I think we all are somewhat familiar with the Barnes Fund, but is sort of this newer Catalyst Fund or Strike Fund, as it's been referred to. I would like just some explanation for myself and the viewing audience as well. Where does that fund live? How are applications made to it? Who weighs them? What's the oversight there, and how we expect that to work? Is anyone prepared to? And if we need to wait if we end up deferring this, we wait until the next meeting to talk about that, or at the ARP committee. That's fine. But I just wondered if anyone was present, or anyone from the administration was present who could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to it, and then I've talked with Mick Nelson, who's here, if he wants to share a little bit how it could work in practice on the street. From an oversight perspective, we would put out an RFP to have a third party administer it. So one of the goals with these funds, as the task force had discussed as well, is to attract a partner that has expertise and then can also help recruit additional dollars. So to be able to showcase the Mayor's Office of the City is making this kind of investment in this fund. And so, will you join us in doubling something like this? The Barnes Fund is really valuable, obviously, in what it does, but it does not move quickly. We have a clear, transparent RFP process for individual grants. The way that this would work is that you'd have clear parameters set out, and then partners can go out and be able to compete with market rate developers who are able to close really quickly and bring cash to the deal. We actually have an Urban Housing Solutions here as well, who kind of pieced together their own version of this, which was really interesting and involved multiple partners, Regions Bank and others, in terms of being able to close quickly on something and preserve units. And so that's kind of the goal of this fund. We know, we've had so many stories in the news lately, especially with the preservation and loss of naturally occurring or expiring affordable. And so the idea in this tool is to be able to say, hey, this property's listed, let's go. And then the oversight structure would, studying various models around the country, involve, obviously the third-party administrator and their parameters. And then there's a number of different ways we could structure it in terms of, having a community member, having a, department head, council member, depending on the priorities, but the top priority being the preservation of units for affordable housing.
Thank you. So I think those are great points. As is often said, the most affordable housing is whatever is already built. So with that being said, I'm going to remind us that we're on the motion to defer this allocation one meeting to allow it to go before the Housing Trust Fund and the ARB Committee. Are we ready to take a vote, or is there any more discussion on that motion to defer one meeting? All right, hearing no more discussion, all those in favor of a deferral for one meeting, please say aye. All those opposed? All right. Did you get that? 9? Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. So that's 9 in favor, 0 opposed to the deferral. All right, now bills on second reading. We've got 2021-912 by Allen, O'Connell, and others. This amends Chapter 2.213 of the Metro Code to create a mechanism for the implementation of the Inclusionary Housing Incentive Program. Councilmember Allen. Whoops.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a tool we are trying to create that will provide some incentives for private developers to create affordably priced housing according to official definitions. We are working with the assessor's office to do some research on exactly what those financial numbers need to be, and we expect that data to be available in December. And therefore, I'm going to ask for a deferral until February 8th so that we can get that information, have it go before planning in January, and then we'll be ready to come back and discuss it February 8th. So I would like to move for deferral till February 8th.
Wonderful. Do we have a second on that motion? Properly moved and seconded. So we have a question on the deferral. Councilmember Mendez.
Yeah, I could probably get an answer by looking at a calendar, but it seems like February 8th should probably be the second Tuesday, not the first or the third. February 1st. So, yeah,
First
I'm in favor of that.
All right, so motion is to defer to the first meeting in February. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Seeing none. We have one more item on the agenda, and then we've got some folks from Metro Action Commission who are going to give us an update on their housing programs. So we've got BL 2021-971 by O'Connell, Evans, and others, amends Title II of the Metro Code of Laws to create an Office of Housing and Homelessness. Councilmember O'Connell. Wait 1 second, I'm sorry. Found you. You're on.
All right, great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This one I'd like to defer to the second meeting in April, and happy to give some context there.
Okay, motion's been made to defer to the...
I can't make the motion, but...
Oh, can I make the motion, Hannah? It's been moved and seconded now to defer this to the second meeting in April. We'll go back to the bill's sponsor for an explanation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This one is complicated. There's a lot of machinery in Metro devoted to housing. There's machinery adjacent to Metro and MDHA. We've had a lot of good conversation on Friday. There was a special called meeting of the Continuum of Care Homelessness Planning Council. We were one vote short of a quorum. I think I'd like for the Barnes Commission to consider this fully as well. We've had some discussion with stakeholders. I'm definitely encouraged by the amount of support. I'm encouraged by some of the responsiveness we've gotten from the administration here. And I do think there's value in continuing to consider the approach we take. The Affordable Housing Task Force report, as I mentioned in the special meeting we had a couple weeks ago, identifies two potential pathways. One is to create a standalone Office of Housing and Homelessness. The other is to do something else that is presumably better. And so I think I'm comfortable. It's, we know from a finance and an HR perspective that this would be hard to achieve before July 1st, right, the next fiscal year. So I'm comfortable kind of waiting until the budget process, give ourselves some time to study this. You'll see in the packet, again, the administration proposed substitute. I think what I'm going to do is run that as an independent bill or resolution to just ensure that we do the study. But we'll come back and basically have council consider something as a part of the budget process that we hope is better than the status quo. So that is where we are headed. I appreciate all the work that's gone into this, and I again, appreciate colleagues' support for a deferral till late April.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember O'Connell. Any discussion on the deferral to the second meeting in April? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Recommend approval of the deferral. And lastly, we're joined this afternoon, now evening, by representatives from Metro Action Commission who wanted to provide us with an update. So we're super grateful that y'all are here today. And if you would please introduce yourself and tell us how things are going. You should be live at this point.
Thank you very much. I'm Cynthia Kroom. I'm the Executive Director of the Metropolitan Action Commission. Sorry, my earring's a little caught. I'll just leave it. We just wanted to bring you up to speed on where we are on the HOPE, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, but also make you all aware of our plans to bring the HOPE portal down. Thank you. Temporarily in conjunction with the court dockets in the housing court also closing. Judge Bell is also here to join me as we kind of walk you through this. Let me just give you some quick updates. To date, we've expended $35 million in a 9-month time frame to over 4,000, on behalf of over 4,000 households. Of that 35 million, 6.7 million went for 793 individuals that were in the courts. That means individuals who were in the process of going through eviction. In addition to that, you just appropriated $13 million for us that we received from Treasury. We have $4 million of that left. We are waiting for the $25 million that you keep hearing me talk about, which is the reallocated funds from the state that they did not spend down. We're still waiting to receive that and hope to have it by the end of this month, given that we have $4 million currently on hand, unspent, that's available to us. You all have heard from the community and from various groups about the concerns over the numbers of applications that we have. It is our belief that if we bring our portal down, meaning to new applications, there will be no new rental applications entered into the portal between December 14th and January 18th, which is 1 week before the housing court comes back online in terms of their dockets. That's why Judge Bell is also here to share some information with you. That will give us an opportunity to do several things. It will allow us to get the nonprofits trained who will be contracting with us to help process some of the applications. It will give us an opportunity to clean up the applications that are already in the system that need to be processed and that have missing information without us continuing to have applications come into the system that will not be able to be touched until we can clean up what's already there. We believe that by coming down in conjunction with the court dockets coming down for for the Housing Diversionary Court, that it will allow us to get people processed during that time. In addition to that, the fact that we already have a bulk payment agreement with MDHA, which means that we have a weekly assessment of their properties where people are in arrears. We do a bulk payment to them generally on Mondays to make sure that those folks are also taken care of. It will give our team an opportunity to clean up the duplicate applications that are in the system. So if you look at the system right now, it says that there have been over 11,000 people who have applied for rental assistance. Yet when we go through the system, in some cases you have one person who's made 5 applications with 6 different types of information in the application. So we know that we don't really have an accurate number that allows us to project how much additional funding we might need to request from Treasury. So we wanted to make you aware. We met with our finance partners today. That's other partners in the community that are also administering this program. We had a 3 o'clock meeting with them to walk them through the process of closing the rental assistance portal to new applicants only so that we can process those that are there. However, our normal rental assistance program, which is funded through the Community Services Block Grant, will continue to operate as it normally does. I hope that information is helpful. Judge Bell is also here to provide some information that we think you need to have. Judge Bell.
Thank you.
Thank you, and good evening, everybody. This year we hit the ground running very, very hard amid the COVID-19 crisis. We rolled up our sleeves and got to work, realizing that the housing crisis was about to hit, and it did really hit hard. The collective work with Metro Action Commission, the Civil Court Clerk's Office, and my colleagues, all of the General Sessions Court judges, has been nothing short of amazing. As Dr. Kroom stated, since our first Legacy Housing Resource Diversionary Court, which we started on February 23rd, we've conducted over 100 dockets, adding those to our additional dockets, with a total of 1,381 cases that have come where landlords have been paid through the United Way Financial Assistance Network, along with the HOPE program funds with the United States Treasury. To that tune is $8,633,424.46. So there's 1,381 landlords that were able to agree to stop eviction with the tenants. But those cases sometimes are set 2 to 3 times. So we've docketed over 5,558 cases since that time. So our team has been working tirelessly and working very hard. But I do want to state that the Legacy Housing Resource Diversionary Court's last docket will be Tuesday, December 14th, 2021. Our courts are closing on December 16th and will resume on Tuesday, January 3rd. The next Housing Resource Diversionary Court docket would be January 25th to ensure that those cases will still be able to be transferred. Our courts are not closing. If there's an impasse or there's an issue with a landlord or tenant, we've instructed them to notify the clerk's office to let us know that a trial needs to be set immediately because there may be some issue going on. So we're not stopping our operations. It's just our official dockets will close on December the 15th. Our last docket is December 14th, and we will resume back on January 25th, 2022. We do appreciate your assistance and your help while we work through. As Dr. Kroom says it, we're building the plane as we're flying it, but we're figuring it out as we go, and we have a lot of great support from the city, and thank you also from the council.
Thank you very much. That's fantastic news that y'all were able to ramp up the program so quickly and secure those additional funds from the communities that were not able to do so. Do we have any questions for either of our guests? It looks like Councilmember Sledge.
Thank you, Chair. Dr. Krim and Judge Bell, thank you both for all the work you've done. My only question was, of the time period that we're talking about bringing that portal down, what portion of that time period were you going to be closed anyway? The courts were for the holidays, the courts and the offices. I'm just trying to get a sense of what the actual impact is downtime-wise.
I can speak for MAC. We won't be closed except for the days that are the normal city holidays. We will not be actually closed. We will just be processing the existing applications.
Okay, great.
And I'll answer that as well. The courts are closed from court dockets, but my team and my staff, we will still be in the office, still processing applications, still pushing things through the portal. We have our Legacy Housing Resource Diversionary Court portal as well. So there'll be some days that we will be off during the holiday, but we still will be functioning on the weekly basis during that time.
Thank you both. Thank you, Chair.
Fantastic. Any other questions for our guests? Councilmember Sepulveda.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for everything that y'all do. I do have a quick question. The nonprofits that were chosen through the RFP applications, do you have the list of the nonprofits that were chosen yet?
We are still in negotiations with them, so the answer to that is no.
Any other questions from the committee? Okay, well, we are adjourned. That's the conclusion of our business today. So thanks, everyone. Budget and Finance is coming up next.